The National Museum of the United States Army is planned as the official museum for the history of the United States Army and is planned for construction just outside Washington, D.C. The objectives of the museum are to honor America's soldiers, preserve Army history, and educate the public about the Army's role in American history. Under a September 2000 agreement with the Department of the Army, the Army Historical Foundation was designated the fundraising entity for the National Museum of the United States Army. The Army also established the National Museum of the United States Army Project Office to oversee the design and construction of the museum. In September 2008, the Army selected Skidmore, Owings and Amp Merrill of New York as the design architect and Christopher Chadbourne and Amp Associates of Boston as the exhibit design firm. In 2012, Eisterhold Associates, Inc. assumed the exhibit planning and design, and Production, Inc. began the exhibit fabrication. The U.S. Army will operate and maintain the museum when it opens, and AHF will be responsible for all revenue-generating operations. The National Army Museum will be located on 40 acres at Fort Beaver, Virginia, 20 miles south of Washington, D.C. The main building will be approximately 175,000 square feet and display selections from 15,000 pieces from the Army Art Collection and 30,000 artifacts, documents, and images. Outside this facility will be a park with a memorial garden and parade ground. Space is being planned to accommodate ceremonies, reenactments, lectures, educational programs, conferences, and reunions. The museum is expected to receive an estimated 750,000 visitors yearly. Objectives. The National Museum of the United States Army describes its objectives as educate and engage current and future generations about the Army and its contributions, preserve the Army's history and its prominent role in the nation's past, present, and future, honor Army values such as patriotism, respect, loyalty, and integrity, while providing an understanding of what it means to serve, pay tribute to 14 generations of American soldiers whose leadership, selfless service, and personal sacrifice have forged and safeguarded our nation. Inspire soldiers of today by connecting their experience to the legacy and leadership of a great nation. Stimulate the youth of America to pursue scholastic excellence in any field of study that supports the Army's core missions. Museum design. The centerpiece of the National Museum of the United States Army will be a major exhibition facility where the stories of soldiers will be joined with thousands of artifacts, documents, and images tracing the history of the United States Army through a series of chronological galleries and thematic galleries. In September 2008, the Army selected Skidmore, Owings and Amp Merrill of New York as the design architect and Christopher Chadbourne and Amp Associates of Boston as the exhibit design firm. In 2012, Eisterhold Associates Inc. assumed the exhibit planning and design, and Production, Inc. began the exhibit fabrication. Fort Beaver North Post location. On the 17th of June 2011, the Department of Defense released a press release stating, "The Army announced today that the North Post of Fort Beaver, Virginia, will be the site of the National Museum of the U.S. Army, scheduled to open in June 2015. Secretary of the Army John M. McHugh approved the decision this week, which also marked the Army's 236th birthday. Initial construction will include a multi-story main museum building with exhibit halls, theater, veterans hall, food service and retail areas, administrative areas, an experiential learning center, and a lobby with visitor reception area. Fort Beaver is spread over several locations, but the main base is in Fairfax County, Virginia, and occupies the former Beaver estate of William Fairfax. The post is bisected by US 1. The area of FD.The between US 1 and the Potomac River is the South Post, while the area between US 1 and Telegraph Road is the North Post. The preferred site for the museum is on the North Post, along the Fairfax County Parkway at the intersection with Kingman Road. There is now a sign at this location stating future site of National Museum of the U.S. Army. FD.The is about 20 miles south of Washington, D.C., and 3 miles south of George Washington's historic Mount Vernon estate, which draws over 1 million visitors per year.